Hello, everyone. Just broadcasting here from my palatial blanket fort. Um, I don't really know how to pull all of my thoughts right now into a coherent whole, but I just feel really motivated to talk about some things, so I'm going to give it a shot. I got a lot of stuff on my mind this evening. Somebody I really care about, another trans man, actually was recently having some sort of issues. Just feeling kind of downhearted about being trans and, just wishing that they were perceived as, a regular guy. And I think every trans person has gone through that, like, millions of times. It's completely normal. Um, but at the same time, I think that that sense of all, like, what's so complicated about it and all the hassle and all the misunderstandings that make you just, tired at the end of the day of being trans, I think a lot of that it's just coming from other people. It's not coming from the fact that you're transgender or transsexual. It's because people are just going to be stupid about it, pretty much. Um, it's tiring, right? It's like I work in customer service, and sometimes I almost feel the same way about my job as I do about being trans. Dealing with people and their bizarreness can really bring you down some nights. But I've been thinking because of this, I've been thinking a lot about like why people get so upset in particular by issues of gender and sexual orientation, because a lot of homosexual people get the same amount of crap that transsexuals do, really. We're all sort of grouped in together as a sort of general classification of subversive people. um, and I'm homosexual, I guess, as a trans man too, so that actually really sort of gives me the double whammy on that one. Um, but yeah, I've been thinking about why it's such an issue for people, and I think that whenever something baffles me or upsets me about the world and how it works or what people do, I've always been a really nerdy, sort of science-minded kind of individual. I really like to look at the big picture, and I try to break things down and just look at it objectively without any real emotion behind it and just think, well, why is this happening? Like, from an evolutionary viewpoint, what's going on here? Um, and that's how I look at my personal situation being a transgender man. Um, Sexual orientation and gender are clearly really important to the human species because we're an animal. We're a species of animals that have an invested interest in procreating successfully as a group. And that's just something that animals are going to have. Like, we're going to be geared toward favoring what's going to guarantee greater procreative success. And we're going to be geared toward not favoring things that are, going to give poorer chances of procreative success. And for a person who is, let's say homosexual, they want to perform the act of procreation with someone that we all know they can't procreate with. And that's seen as bad, in the greater scheme of things. On a really basic animal level, people just have that gut reaction to it that way. And for transsexuals, it's like huge, like, holy crap, what are you? You know, we classify people by their gender so strongly, and we enforce those divisions of male and female so much. Like, as soon as we're children, it's like, as soon as you're born, it's like, okay, is it a boy or a girl? Let's start programming it, like, now. And some of those differences between men and women are totally rooted in biology. Obviously they are. But a lot of those things are exaggerated, like way beyond the biological starting point. And I think that used to be a lot more necessary for people in society. Like, the chances of your offspring all living were a lot worse than they are today. People would have, like tons of kids, and they'd have them young. Like, it was very important that you got married and had 15 kids or something, and hopefully some of them would live. And that's the way it used to be for a lot of years. And I can see how people would have developed in society, wanting to really push the gender differences and make it like this super focused thing. Like, okay, you're a guy, you're a girl, you got to get married and do this, or else we'll die out. Like, and it's not so much like that now. We have 6 billion people, and we're actually worried about overpopulation now. And but people still have that instinctive programming to just kind of be creeped out by anything that disobeys that code of successful procreation. And the funny thing is, though, and here's what I notice, is that, let's say if there's a woman who is completely just a regular woman, and she's infertile, she has some kind of problem, she can't have kids, or a man, he's shooting blanks, he's not able to make a baby. People regard that generally as just a disappointing tragedy, and a person like that gets all kinds of sympathy, and they're encouraged to, adopt or pursue some kind of chances of kickstarting their procreative, materials. There's fertility clinics all over the place, right? But I think that they get that sympathy, honestly, because they're trying. They want to have that kid. It's like, oh, it's not their fault. It's so sad. They're off the hook because they're not trying to disobey the code. And everybody can see that they didn't choose for that to happen. It's generally their body doesn't work. But with homosexual people and transsexual people, there's this really messed up perception of choice. Because our bodies are procreative functions, they work in most cases. So I think people get this concept of oh, if you just stopped with this bullshit of wanting to be gay or wanting to be transsexual, you could be completely successful procreative human being. But you're just choosing not to do that. And they're threatened by that. On some instinctive level, people are threatened by that because it's we're just saying, fuck you, species. I'm not contributing to your survival. And the thing is that, yes, human beings are animals, and we've evolved with these senses of what's really important on a basic animal level. But we're also a pretty special animal in the sense that we've evolved a much higher logic ability. And any person with a functioning mind can stop, assess an individual situation, and say, hey, are a few transgender and a few homosexual people in the world really going to threaten global procreative ability? No, they're not. You need to be able to just think outside of your gut reaction to something like that and be logical. And, I'm really fascinated by the science behind why people turn out to be transsexual sometimes or homosexual. I love reading studies about what's going on in the brain development and how the gender sense in the brain actually develops in a way that's in opposition to the physical sex. That's fascinating, and I think that it's a really valid thing to look at because it is concrete. It's no, it's not a choice. No one just whimsically wants to suffer and be in this totally bizarre position in life where their body doesn't match their brain and life sucks. Nobody would choose that. So like, it is rooted in some kind of biological development, but people can't see it. Like I said in my last video, people can't see what's going on in your brain. People can't look and see, oh, you have this little part of your brain that governs gender identity that's different than it's, supposed to be based on your genitals. No one can see that. If we could see that visually right away, people would be like, oh, you're one of those. Oh, okay, But they don't do that because they think, oh, it's a choice, and it's not a choice. That's ridiculous. But there's this touchy thing about really getting into the fascination behind why homosexuality or transsexuality happens, like on a biological level, like on a brain developmental level. There's something kind of touchy about that, is that some people will look at those kinds of studies and think, oh, well, let's find a preventative solution for it then. If there's something going on in the development of the fetus that makes them turn out this way, well, let's figure out how to make them not turn out that way. And I find that really disagreeable, because as much as I love learning about why these things happen, I think that it's way more in the better interest for humanity on the whole to be able to make room for differences and to be able to embrace diverse types of people and occurrences, rather than to try to prevent any diversity from occurring. Because that's some dangerous stuff. That's like counter to evolution furthering itself. And who's to say that homosexual and transsexual people don't completely have a natural place in the scheme of things on a larger whole? Maybe we develop and show up at times when we're genuinely needed. Transgender people, homosexual people have often been considered to think outside the box. We live and experience everything outside of the box of the normal ways of living and seeing and experiencing things. There's a whole filter that's been sort of like removed for us, and that's hugely valuable. I think that's valuable, like, just as much as being able to procreate physically. Like, someone else can do that. But I'm really stoked to be transsexual just because of that. I really believe that I have a place in the scheme, and I hope that the human race evolves and opens their minds up enough to a point where we can see that that's the case, that people with alternative experiences have a role, a greater role. Everyone does. Everyone has something to contribute, whether it's an amazing idea or just a story or a new baby or whatever. Preventing differences from happening is just pointless and really a frightening concept to me. And being transsexual and being homosexual or being whatever you are is nothing to be ashamed of. So rock it. Be proud of it. It's awesome. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you later.